Smita, are you ready?
Yes. Hi, Eric. Yes.
Yes, please introduce yourself fully. Tell us where you're telling from. Tell us about your work, and then please tell us a story.
Right. Good evening, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be amongst story listeners and storytellers, as always. Eric has been my story mentor through the years since 2006, I think. So it's a long relationship that I have with Eric and his team. Having said that, a bit about myself. I'm Smita and I stay in Bombay, but I'm hailed from Chennai, Tamil Nadu, the southern part of India. And I, we kind of, I am a dance and movement therapist by profession, and I also teach dance, Bharatanatyam. The relevance today of this is because today I'm going to tell a story which is very close to home for me, because the story is about a Devadasi. A little brief. Devadasis are women who are dedicated to the temple. Of course, I'm sure you will enjoy it when you hear it in the story. This story is set up in the 1800s, and it has a lot of gestures. I'm going to be using a bit of gestures while narrating the story, because it's about a dancer. A Devadasi is essentially in fact, Bharatanatyam hails its origin from Devadasyatam or Dasyatam. And therefore, this story is very close to me because as a Bharatanatyam dancer, I came upon an interview which inspired me to pen down a story. I hope you all enjoy it and relish it the way I have writing it. Alamelu was getting ready to leave. The cart was loaded for the journey. How much have I accumulated over these years, she said to herself, smiling. I really hope the weight of my intellect is much more and remains to be so than the weight of these ornaments, she said. Alamelu was visiting the capital than the king had requested her to visit. While Alamelu herself felt very humbled for the invitation, her mother and the entire team, generally a Devadasi has a whole clan of people supporting her, they were beaming with excitement. Alamelu was a Devadasi and she was dedicated to the Perumal or the deity, the Lord, at the age of 7, the tender age of 7. The term Devadasi itself means being a dasi or a servant to the gods. Girls at a very young age were married to the temple deities, but these women were not desolate. These women were sophisticated, knowledgeable, pursuers of art, and they held a respectable position in the community, and they represented culture while being married to the gods. Yes, they had to perform sexual gratification acts towards the patrons of the temple, but this was a matter of their choice. They had the freedom to choose whom to serve as part of their duty towards the temple. For a time when expression of art, wisdom, learning was what was not meant for women, Devadasis held a very respectable position in the society. And it was, in fact, in these Devadasis' houses that art, poetry, culture, music, dance thrived. This is the story of one such Devadasi whose name is Alamelu. All her life, Alamelu relished and enjoyed this freedom. Her freedom to learn, practice, nurture her art as a dancer, as a poet, as a musician. Her capacity to influence her patron, who was the most influential person in the town and a worthy trader in the king's court. It gained her a lot of advantage and helped her family to live a comfortable life. While Alamelu served her patron, whom she addressed as Durai, it was actually Venkaya, the poet of the town, who received her admiration. Amma, once Durai leaves, please ask Venkaya to set up the performance for today, she said to her mother. After all, we have poets coming in from all over the kingdom. We must serve them our best, she said. But Alamelu, Venkaya is missing since night. I have not seen him, said her mother. Did you look at the Garbhagraha, the holy place where the deity is kept? Did you look at the Garbhagraha? He always likes to sit there and sing to himself, she said. Hearing this, Durai commented. You give too much importance to him, Alamelu, I see, he said. My lord, I indulge in my musings only after my service to you, isn't it? Why such lamenting? She said. Yesterday, while dancing Krishna Nibe Gane, I saw you. You were dancing, but you were pursuing him. I have seen this. I was standing right there, said Durai. Alamelu calmly held him and said with a straight gaze but affirmative tone, seeking Krishna is my right, Durai. Have you forgotten? I am a Krishna Dasi. My words, my music, and sometimes even me myself are the Lord's. There is a reason I'm a Krishna Dasi, isn't it? She said. Krishna ni begane paro. You have the entire town to look after who need you in good spirit. Let's discuss Krishna when you have the time, said Alamelu, as she packed off Durai from her home. For her, art was not just an expression, it was worship. Later that day, Venkaya walked in and she asked him, where were you all night? Did you finish the poem verses that I told you to? The Kirtanam is very important and I want to place perfect expressions for it. What a beautiful thought, Venkaya, continued Alamelu. What a beautiful thought, Venkaya. Krishna in all his imperfections. Krishna is known as the Lord of imperfections. Naughty guy. He is sometimes my child, my foe, my friend, my lover. Beautiful, Venkaya. Did you finish the poem? Alamelu was excited. Venkaya did not move. He did not react. What happened? What is the matter? Word has it that Raja Krishnadevaraya has sent his pet poet and he's going to be coming today for the function to our house. I have heard rumors that he's going to ask you to become the courtesan in Raja Krishnadevaraya's court. Imagine me, an average Krishnadasi, being invited to Lord Krishnadevaraya's court himself to dance and express and come on, Venkaya, she said. Do not blow fire to hearsay. These may not be true. But Alamelu, without you, I will not have inspiration. What will I write about? If you go away, then I have to come with you to protect you. Alamelu gave a gentle smile and said, let me think about needing your protection or not. But right now, I want you to concentrate on what's important. Today's recital has to be impeccable, she said. Later that day, the poet from Raja Krishnadevaraya's darbar or the court did come for the recital. Devi, Alamelu Devi, a beautiful way of addressing a woman. Alamelu Devi, we at the Mahanagaram capital have heard so many praises about your intelligence, creativity, and of course, beauty. The Raja has sent word for you to please perform in the court amongst all of us. And in fact, your the issue about the farmers, the story is very famous in the capital. How you skillfully dealt along with Durai and advised him against increasing the tax for the poor farmers struck with because of loss of crops. Alamelu smiled and she said, and she was humble. He continued, the poet continued, then he said, Raja Krishnadevaraya would like you to perform in his court, and maybe he would, you could also listen to his creations as an artist, because the whole world knows that Raja Krishnadevaraya himself is a very accomplished artist. 1,000 pranams to you, O noble poet, for bringing such great news, and I show my humble gratitude towards the king, said Alamelu, with all humility and namaskaram. The king's zeal as an artist is probably the reason or the benchmark of his righteousness. I am honored and I will perform at the king's court, she said. In fact, recently I have choreographed a new javli, a classical piece in Bharatanatyam, which involves the dialogue between two lovers. I would love to perform this javli, she said. Thank you, Devi. I will make the necessary preparations, says the noble poet. The same evening, an angry Dore enters Alamelu's room. How dare you? How did you accept to become the king's courtesan? Have you forgotten you owe it all to me? I am your patron. I decide where you perform or whom you visit or whom you meet. Have you lost all respect to the temple, the deity? Remember, you are in my control. Dure angrily at Alamelu. Moving slowly towards the door, Alamelu spoke. Dure, no one has right over me. Have you forgotten? I am a Krishnadas. I have the freedom to choose my patron. You are my patron and I appreciate that. But remember, it is my art, my dedication to the Lord that has gained me this intellect, not your patronage. If you choose to control and rule, you do it in your home kingdom. This is my abode of worship. This is my home, she said. You have the right over my body because I give it to you. Remember, you have no right on my intellect and intelligence. Suray is left speechless as he sits himself on the chair. He is not motivated to say or do anything. You may choose to leave today as I'm in no mood to entertain you, said Alamelu with a stillness that could have struck a vast tree. Today, as Alamelu is getting ready to leave for the capital to meet King Krishnadevaraya, Venkaya comes and gently tells her while bidding her goodbye. Alamelu, you never needed my protection. You have Lord Krishna himself residing in your music, in your dance. Everything that's good in you is Lord Krishna himself. How can I protect someone like you? He says, and he backs it. Alamelu realizes that she has come a long way from being that 7-year-old little girl. She thinks to herself, I did not choose this. What I make of it, I make of my own. That's how, my friends, the story ends. With external invasions, extension of royal families, and with little understanding of the Indian culture, the Indian invaders did not relish the art forms as it was, because of which the Devadasi culture faced a steep downfall and it became synonymous with prostitution. The story is about a time when it thrived in its supremacy because of its love for the art, the worship for the art, and the progress of the art. For me, the story relating to the time that it is set in is all about, it's about the freedom of existence, the freedom of making choices, and probably even feminism. And I would really like to know which chord it struck for all of you who listen to the story. Thank you very much.
Okay. Beautifully
Thank you,
told.
everyone.
Yes. First, I want to say wonderful acting and great eye contact. You really, by looking into the camera, you really engaged us. We were in the middle of the story.
Thank you.
Now, you know, I don't know the exact legalities of the rights and duties of a Devadasi person in the culture you describe, but I understood that character was standing up to that man as best she could.
Yeah. So the journey of a Devadasi starts very young, and the reason why they need a patronage is basic security and safety of the temple jewelry. So it was more of the logistical requirement that they had patrons. But um, the story signifies a lot of the culture that has acted. For loss of words, the culture that has really died, the Dasi culture, because I'm in no way I'm propagating that a Dasi culture is good or bad. This is just my view on how a woman at any time uh, can stand up for herself if she knows the right things to say and she knows her worth. So it struck a chord.
Anybody, any thoughts? Priyanka?
Hi, Smita. Your story is no less than a gift for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Priyanka.
It is. It has a fragrance of culture and heritage, and at the same time, it is so deep, Smita, that it is speaking to every life here. The last lines that you mentioned, I make of it what I choose to make of it. Very intense. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka. Very humble. Thank you.
Gustav?
I like it very much because the fact that body and soul can be separated, and she could. It's very difficult because at least I call it well at least in Occidental prostitution, right? We can talk about that, but it's not. Of course, it's not. But it's very difficult for women to separate a tail that separates in her body and her accomplishments and her her soul and her proper accomplishments and her body and in accordance with the power of two men, this patron and the king. It's very interesting, very enlightening for many cross-culturally is very interesting and very enlightening for people that are not participating of that kind of tradition where there is this dancing for a temple that is so important. That's all.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. So yes, but one of the things which kind of helped me or motivated me to bring this out is as I work in the field of trauma, psychological trauma as a trauma therapist, and I work extensively with flesh traders and in Bombay, and therefore I probably that's why this struck a chord. Thank you for bringing that up, Gustavo. Thank you so much.
Flesh traders, that's what the expression. Flesh traders.
It's just the way that I'm calling it instead of calling it as a prostitution, because it's at the end of the day they are workers. They perform a duty to exist, isn't it?
Well,
Very hard.
But yeah,
the
I'm
usual-
open for. I mean, I know people have thoughts about it, but this is the way that I say it. It's
the usual term is sex workers, isn't it?
sex workers. Yes.
And is it even illegal in India? I'm not sure that it's even
I
illegal.
don't. No, not at all. It's just I prefer to use the term this way because the word sex brings in so many feelings, mixed emotions. But because like how Gustavo brought it up, the body and the soul can be different because it's a
Mm.
duty that she's doing. But at the end of the day, her heart is in her art, isn't it? So
Mm.
that is why I kind of like to use this word, but that's a personal take on it.
Mhm. Well, I'm sure there were different variations in different parts of India and in different times regarding the legal rights and responsibilities of a Devi Dasa.
Devadasi.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was a evolving and diverse situation, I'm sure.
Yes. In fact, today when we talk about the Devadasi system, I don't want to take much time, but definitely if people are interested to learn about the Indian culture, Devadasi, when you type or Google it, you only get people saying stories about how sad it is that they were lured into it as young girls and how they were forced to become sex traders and they were then taken from one brothel to another. This is the reality of today, but But that's not how it started. Like many things which started with a keen interest of something else, the system also had a downfall because of invasion, because of change of monarchies. And but so that's exactly why I said that this is the time when it thrived and art was in its supremost purity. So I wanted to bring in a very different angle. And I think that a woman who can think for herself and has an opinion is a threat across all ages. So, so this story brings that out. So yeah, I mean it in a very nice way. I'm not a feminist, but I mean it in a nice way.
My impression is that the Devadasi tradition is, at least I associate it with the legend of pre-patriarchal times, where especially goddesses were worshipped, and especially
Yes.
women were the priestesses, and
Yes.
they controlled what went on in terms of worship of the goddess.
Absolutely. In fact, Eric, thanks for bringing that up. I'm sure all of you know the personality called MS Subbalakshmi. She is the most world-renowned classical singer, and she has won a lot of accolades across the world. MS Subbalakshmi, she is herself is a daughter of a Devadasi, and the reason why she was exposed to that culture was because of her upbringing. In fact, Muthulakshmi Reddy, the first Indian woman who was a legislator representative, is also a child of Devadasi, and her mother's patronage is the one who influenced her to go and study in London. So there are good and bad of everything. Today, my agenda was to just look at it with a different lens. But I'm not saying that I support it. I'm saying that there is good and bad in both.
Great. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.